Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
No cube එකක් mix කරලා හදමු අලුත් කෙසෙල් fried rice.
On 1st at 9 this Wednesday, the 9th of November 2022. Expansion. Construction of the Colombo Port West Container Terminal commences with expectations to complete the first phase by early 2024.
So when the Sri Lanka is struggling to earn foreign exchange by various means, this has been a catalyst for our development in Sri Lanka.
Crisis response. The United Nations appeals to the international community to help Sri Lanka by assisting accumulate $70 million. Returning. Sri Lanka detects its second monkeypox case from a Sri Lankan returning from Dubai.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Very good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. I'm Andrew Bernard. Now, construction work on the Colombo Port West Container Terminal commenced today with plans to develop the terminal to handle 1.6 million containers. The Port Authority said that phase 1 of the project will be completed by next 2024, while the terminal will be fully developed by the year 2026. Speaking at the event, Minister of Ports and Shipping Nimal Siripal de Silva expressed his gratitude for the support extended by India to Sri Lanka during the period of crisis and invited Indian investors to invest in the country. The ceremony to begin construction work to develop the West Container Terminal at the Colombo Port was held today with the participation of Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripal de Silva and Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Gopal Bagle. An 800-meter-long section of the Western Terminal will be developed as the first phase of the project. 8 semi-automatic cranes are expected to be used for the activities of the terminal, while 18 fully automatic cranes will be used for the container operations at the terminal. A fully automatic gate complex and a special data analysis system is also expected to be established there. 1.6 million containers are expected to be handled at the Western Terminal annually following the construction of the terminal. Meanwhile, the Ports Authority says that the first phase is to be completed by the 3rd of April 2024 and the entire construction of the entire terminal is to be completed by the middle of 2026.
So when the Sri Lanka is struggling to earn foreign exchange by various means, this has been a catalyst for our development in Sri Lanka. So therefore, we are very delightful today because I wanted this terminal to come up very, very soon. And we are grateful to India. During the good times as well as in the difficult times, India had rescued us. In the forex crisis, they gave us more than $4 billion to bail out the situation. No other country has given that to us. So, Your Excellency, let me take this opportunity to thank the Indian government and the people of India for the great support they have extended to us to come over this crisis. As far as this project is concerned, not only that, India should come more and more and invest in Sri Lanka.
Really privileged and delighted today because when I arrived in Sri Lanka about 2.5 years ago, this was one of the main objectives in pursuing a closer economic partnership between India and Sri Lanka, that India and Sri Lanka should be able to leverage and benefit from each other's strength and capacities. How do we do that was the question. There was never a doubt in the objective or the intent or the willingness of the two sides to pursue this path for mutual benefit, for mutual prosperity. And I'm very happy to see that what was started last year in terms of various processes which Kishan mentioned has come to fruition and is taking off today.
Now, the National People's Power parliamentarian Vijitha Herath claims that the governance is introducing continuous taxation as a result of the staff level agreement reached with the International Monetary Fund. Further, a tense situation broke out in Parliament today following the request made by the opposition to present the IMF staff level agreement in the Parliament.
ජාත්‍යන්තර මුල්ල අරමුදල සමග තියෙන කිවිසුම වහාම ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න අපිට හංගවන්න දෙයක් නැහැ ජනාධිපතිතුමා කියලා තියෙනවා ඔබතුමාලා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයටම කතා කරලා ඔබතුමාව දැනුවත් කරන්න කියලා. ඒ නිසා පොඩ්ඩක් USC මේක බලන්න
මේ මංගාව තියෙන්නේ ඔය කියන වාර්තාව. මේ තියෙන්නේ මේක තමයි ස්ටාෆ් ලෙවල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකේ එකඟ වෙච්ච මේ කාරණා ටික. ඒක අපි ගාව තියෙනවා. මේක ආවේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් නෙමෙයි. මේක ආවේ ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ සමහර කමිටු වල නොයෙකුත් පුද්ගලයන්ට මේක දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒක කොහොමද වෙන්නේ? අපේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මුදල්කාරක සභාවට දෙන්න බැරි වාර්තාව කොහොමද අනිත් පුද්ගලයන්ට ගියේ? කොහොමද VAT වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ? කොහොමද මේ පර්සනල් ඉන්කම් ටැක්ස් එක වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ? 105 ඉඳලා 36ට ගෙනියන්නේ කොහොමද? ඊට පස්සේ මොකද්ද විත්හෝල්ඩින් ටැක්ස් එක? ඊට පස්සේ කෝපරේට් ඉන්කම් ටැක්ස් එක, වැලියු ඇඩඩ් ටැක්ස් එක, එක්සයිස් කස්ටම්ස් ඩියුටි එක, ඔටෝමැටික් ඉන්ඩෙක්සේෂන් එක මේ ඔක්කොම තියෙනවා.
මේ අනියමින් ලැබුණු ලියවිල්ලක් කොහොම කියවලා මේ රටේ ජනතාව සභාව බය කරන්න එපා. මේ රටේ තියෙන අභියෝගේ තේරුම්
මම කියවන්නේ නැත්තේ ඒකයි. වගකීම තියෙන නිසායි කියවන්නේ නැත්තේ.
හර්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීවරයා ඉදිරිපත් කරද්දී මේ ස්ටාෆ් ලෙවල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකේ කොන්දේසි ටික මල් ළඟ තියෙනවා. ඒ මිනිත් ටික ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න කියවන්න හදනකොට රාජ්‍ය මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා කිව්වා ඔක කියවලා ජනතාව බය කරන්න එපා කියලා. ඒකෙන්ම පැහැදිලි මේ ගිවිසුමේ තියෙන්නේ ජනතාව බය වෙන දේවල්. මං ඉතා පැහැදිලිව වගකීමෙන් කියනවා දැන් මේ බදු පිට බදු එන්නේ වෙන මොකක්වත් නෙමෙයි IMF එකේ ඔය කියන එකඟතා ලියවිල්ලට අනුව. ඇයි ඔබතුමන්ලා මේ ගිවිසුම ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ නැත්තේ?
බය වුණත් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න ඕනේ.
බය වුණත් නැතත් ඒක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම ආණ්ඩුවේ වගකීම.
IMF එකේ බෝඩ් අප්‍රූවල් එක ලබා ගන්න අවශ්‍ය අවසාන අධිරයන් වෙත මේ මොහොතේ ගමන් කළා ඉන්නේ ගරු කතානායක. එහෙනම් මේ කිසිම දෙයක් රහසිගතව සිදු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ අධ්‍යක්ෂක මණ්ඩලයේ අනුමැතිය ලැබුණු වහාම කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයටත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවටත් අපි දැනුවත් කරන්න අවශ්‍ය වැඩපිළිවෙල ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා. ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලේ වැඩසටහනකට අපිට ගමන් කරන්න බැරි වුණොත් එදා මාර්තු අප්‍රේල් මැයි වලට වඩා තිබිච්ච දරුණු තත්ත්වයකට ගමන් කිරීම කාටවත් වළක්වන්න බෑ කරු. දැන් ඉදිරියේදී අයවැය එනවා. ජාත්‍යන්තර මුල්ල අරමුදල සභාවක අත්සන් කරපු ගිවිසුම අපි දන්නේ නැතුව අපි මොනවද කරන්නේ? ස්ටාෆ් ලෙවල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකක් කියන්නේ ඔබතුමා ඒ ආයතන දෙකක් අත්සන් කරන ගිවිසුමක් නෙවෙයි. මේකේ අවසාන ගිවිසුම එන්නේ IMF එකේ බෝඩ් එක අප්‍රූව් කරාට පස්සේ.
We have signed IIT of Madras, which is the fourth largest institution of Indian education, to work with Sri Lanka for 5,000 jobs that happened just about 10 days ago. We have just signed an IIT agreement, and then also we have gone ahead and signed new agreements with a multinational first 500 company with a flagship company in Sri Lanka to create one of the biggest IT hubs in South Asia, which the BOI takes it as a flagship investment.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has met Managing Director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt. According to the President's media division, discussions focused on debt management. The meeting was also participated by President Wickremesinghe's International Advisor on Climate Change, former Maldivian President Mohamed Nasheed, and Ghanaian Finance Minister Ken Aforia-Atta. Now, the United Nations has appealed for the international community to help assisting Sri Lanka by helping it accumulate $70 million in order to help 3.4 million people in the country. The UN states that it requires an additional $70 million on top of the $79 million it received through the international community and other donors in order to mitigate the impact of the crisis on the most vulnerable. The United Nations revised its joint humanitarian needs and priorities plan, calling for more life-saving assistance to aid 3.4 million people. Since June, the UN team in Sri Lanka and NGOs have used the humanitarian needs and priorities plan to respond to the government's request for more support to alleviate the impact of the country's debt and food crisis and shortages of medicine. Governments and donor agencies have helped the humanitarian community reach over 1 million of the country's most vulnerable with cash, food, school meals, medicine, protection and livelihood support. UN Resident Coordinator in Sri Lanka, Hannah Singh-Hamdi, said that they are immensely appreciative of the solidarity the international community has shown the people of Sri Lanka including through the generous contributions to the HNP. She added that it must be sustained if they are able to insulate the most at-risk people from the impacts of the ongoing crisis. Meanwhile, similar to the appeals made from other UN agencies, the HNP has raised $79 million for Sri Lanka through various countries and organizations. The HNP revision, which extends the plan through 2022, requires $70 million in additional funds to reach a total of $149.7 million. In response to the humanitarian community's updated estimates on the number of people in need across all 25 districts of Sri Lanka's districts, the extended appeal is expected to improve nutrition for children, pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers, secure safe drinking water, and protect vulnerable farming and fishing households. Now, the United Kingdom Trade Envoy for Sri Lanka, Lord Davies of Abbotssock, arrived in Colombo today for a 3-day visit. According to the British High Commissioner in Colombo, the UK Trade Envoy is expected to meet a range of business and government stakeholders with a view to expand trade opportunities and support the mutual growth of UK-Sri Lanka economic partnership. The British former banker and former Labour government minister was appointed as the UK Prime Minister's Trade Envoy for Sri Lanka by then Prime Minister Boris Johnson in October 2020. Now, does Sri Lanka need to be worried about a monkeypox epidemic? Stay with us to find out more after this short break.
අයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයි යා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමුතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
Big 3.
Welcome back. The Minister of Tourism Harin Fernando assures that Sri Lanka has all essentials to cater to tourists with fuel passes and other mechanisms introduced specifically to cater to the tourism industry. He made these comments during a recent interview with the BBC. Also appearing on an interview with CNN, Sri Lanka's tourism minister said visiting Sri Lanka during the winter season will be a cheap option to European tourists due to the possible rises in energy prices.
You got a hard job, sir.
Things are turning out to be very good because Sri Lankans are a resilient nation. We have gotten back the normal tourism to come back. Most of the air seat capacities are opening up. Flights are doubling, tripling from Emirates and Qatar Airways, our main two airlines that comes into Sri Lanka. Swiss Air just started on the 10th. KLM, Air France, all flying into Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka is one of those tourism industries or bureaus that's very respected, extremely experienced. You have a mature or not huge tourism market for long-haul destinations. A luxury end side. How are you going to rebuild that and the confidence of it?
We'll see. The industry is stronger. But right now what we see is Sri Lanka, if we are to come out of this, tourism is one industry that Sri Lanka really needs to put our hands up and really perform at this moment. It is a task, but look around the world. Everywhere you see issues, everywhere is a mess. So I think Sri Lankans, even though we're in a mess, we look a little bit better because we have a very good product to sell. We have a short-term and a long-term plan. Short-term is jumping into India, getting all the Indians to come into Sri Lanka at the moment because there's a massive middle class in India, over 230 million travelers. We've got a lot of brands promoting Sri Lanka for the Indian market as well as the Bangladeshi market. So that's our short-term goal. But the long-term, we're looking at even Europe. When come hit the winter, the gas prices are going to be so high, it's still cheaper to come to Sri Lanka and have a nice holiday and enjoy in luxury on the beach and do your work from home.
In an interview with BBC, meanwhile, Tourism Minister Harin Fernando gave an assurance that Sri Lanka is able to supply essential items such as fuel to tourists without a shortage.
Sri Lanka is an island nation. The hospitality doesn't die just because inflation is high. The hospitality is there. The Sri Lankans always smile and they always are welcoming and they are the most hospitable nation, I would say, outside Europe for sure. And why not go there? And also, the value for money that you get in Sri Lanka right now is more. So what you get for a pound, when you come and spend in Sri Lanka, is going to be quite a big margin. So you can do quite a lot in Sri Lanka at the moment, which will in return help Sri Lankan economy as well.
Someone thinking about booking a holiday, for example, at the moment, how do you know if if you're going to go to Sri Lanka, that there's going to be enough fuel, that there's not going to be another petrol shortage in crisis? How are you going to know how much your breakfast is going to cost you?
We're putting lots of things in place. We have a fuel pass, especially for tourism. So any tourist who comes in to the country, the different travel agents will already get a specific quota, which they have been already secured with. And also, if let's say somebody walking in wants to rent a car and drive, they can take a fuel pass from the airport and top it up from a bank. So, which by paying dollars. So right now we have got enough fuel supplies. I mean, I see in France there are fuel queues.
Sri Lanka's second case of monkeypox was confirmed today from a Sri Lankan returning from Dubai. However, specialist at the epidemiology unit, Dr. Chintana Pereira, urges people not to have any undue fears, as monkeypox is not as contagious as COVID-19 and that the only way it can spread is through skin-to-skin contact. The Ministry of Health today confirmed its second case of monkeypox within the country today. The second patient confirmed with the disease was also a Sri Lankan returnee from Dubai. The country's first case of monkeypox was confirmed on the 1st of November from a 20-year-old Sri Lankan returning to the country from Dubai. With this being the case, specialist at the epidemiology unit, Dr. Chintana Pereira, said that the public does not need to develop any unnecessary panic over this development because monkeypox is not as contagious as the COVID-19 virus.
monkeypox රෝගය අපි ජීවත් වෙන මේ දකුණු ආසියාතික කලාපයේ ගත්තොත් රෝගීන් වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙන්නේ දැනට 31 දෙනෙක් පමණයි. ඉන්දියාවේ රෝගීන් 17 දෙනෙක්, තායිලන්තයේ රෝගීන් 12 දෙනෙක්, ඉන්දුනීසියාවේ එක් රෝගියෙක් සහ අපේ රටේ එක් රෝගියෙක් දැනට වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේක විශේෂයෙන් කියන්න තියෙන දේ තමයි මේ රෝගය කොරෝනා රෝගය වගේ තාම පහසුවෙන් පැතිරෙන රෝගයක් නෙමෙයි. ඉතින් අනවශ්‍ය බියක් ඇති කරගත යුතු වන්නේ නැහැ. මේ රෝගය විශේෂයෙන්ම පැතිරෙන්නේ ස්පර්ශයෙන්. මේ රෝගය අපේ රට ඇතුළෙන් එන රෝගයක් නෙමෙයි. මේක පිටින් අපිට එන රෝගයක්. ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයේනුත් දැනට කිසිම විටක දැන් අපි කොවිඩ් වලට වැක්සින් දුන්නා වගේ monkeypox රෝගය සඳහා සියලු දෙනාටම වැක්සින් ලබා දීම එන්නත්කරණයේ තාම ඒගොල්ලෝ එහෙම අනුමත කරලවත් එහෙම අවශ්‍යතාවයක්වත් දක්වලා නැහැ. ඒකින්ද එවැනි කිසිම අවශ්‍යතාවයක් ලංකාවට තාම නැහැ.
The Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, says that after 6 months of discussions with officials from the Ceylon Electricity Board, they have finally managed to plan out to accommodate more than 2,800 megawatts of renewable energy to the existing grid between 2022 and 2026. In a tweet, the minister said that he had a positive meeting with the CB and the Senior Engineers Association pertaining to the matter. After 6 months of discussions, the CB officials have finally mapped out a plan to accommodate over 2,800 megawatts of renewable energy to the existing grid between this time period. The minister said that this will enable the CB to have, and rather the SEC, to accommodate and accelerate many projects. Further, the minister stated that over 170 projects of 226 which have obtained provisional approvals, 48 projects that have emergency energy permits, identified large-scale projects, all tendered projects and higher rooftop solar capacity will be accommodated. Transmission and grid development needed for other projects have also been taken up during the discussion. The Sri Lankan stocks recovered from a more than a 3-month low today as conglomerate John Keells Holding helped push the index after company's joint venture with India's Adani Group boosted the share buying. The all-share price index closed 0.31%, steady at 8,293.50, recovering from its lowest closes since the 4th of August. The market saw a turnover of 831 million rupees, lower than this year's average turnover of 3 billion rupees. The market saw net foreign inflows of 59.8 million rupees. The total net foreign inflow so far this year is 18.8 billion rupees. Meanwhile, the more liquid S&P SL20 index closed 0.90% higher at 2,541.58. The SPI has fallen 3.5% so far in November after losing 13.4% in October. Now, John Keells, meanwhile, also contributing to the index's gain, ended 22.3% higher at 135 rupees a share. Now let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. That's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow at the same time. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.